Hey everybody, David Patrick Green, davidpatrickgreen.com, hackhollywood.com, actorpower.com. Today we're going to talk about how you can talk yourself into your acting career. So the way you can talk yourself into having an acting career is by letting people know every time you meet them what it is you might have done or what it is you can do that's going to help them in the future. Because most of us, what do we do when we meet someone, especially someone important? We make it all about them, right? We defer to them. We act humble and we're so impressed by that other person that they never find out what we are capable of and what we've done that might be interesting to them. And therefore, we never really give them a chance to want to work with us, to want to get involved in what we are doing. So guys, you really need to learn to talk about yourself. And one of the ways you can do that is have stories, have interesting stories, maybe funny stories that you can share with people that are relevant to the business. So maybe something funny happened to you that has to do with acting. Maybe something funny happened to you that doesn't have anything to do with acting, but maybe it's something that puts you in a good light. Maybe you're involved in a charity. Maybe you help the homeless. Maybe you're involved in going overseas to do medical aid with Doctors Without Borders. I don't know what the story you have is, but it's really important that whatever it is that makes you hireable or makes you interesting to other people, especially people in the business, it's really important that you are able to tell those stories, get that information out there. For instance, maybe you went to a really good acting school and you want to maybe mention that. Well, you could say, well, you know, when I was going to Joanne Baron, D.W. Brown Studios, we had this really cool speaker, Benicio del Toro, and he was talking about acting, and one of the things he said was such and such, and it was interesting because I do the exact same thing. So right there, you've basically told them an interesting story, you've mentioned a celebrity, which makes the story a little bit more interesting, and you have let them know that you have studied at a prestigious acting school, and that you've done a lot of training. And that might be really interesting to a director or a producer or somebody else, like a casting director, or even an agent if you're meeting somebody at a party. If you find out that they are involved in certain charities, then you could talk about charitable things that you have done. Maybe you helped out giving out Thanksgiving dinner to homeless people. Whatever it is, maybe you entered into a race, the proceeds of which go to some kind of AIDS foundation. So whatever it is that you have done, it's really important to share that information with people who might want to get involved with you, who are in the business. And you can't wait for them to ask about you because they may never do that. And who knows how much time you are granted with any one person. So if you find yourself in front of someone, or if you're talking to someone on the phone, this can be equally helpful if you're doing if you're cold calling someone, or if you're calling someone because of an introduction, or even if you're calling a casting director about a role you think you're good for, have a little conversation with that person and try and share something ahead of time before you actually get to the point, because it'll create some trust and some likability. You know, like, trust. Those are the three important things in any relationship. And you create those things when you tell stories about yourself that are relevant to the people you want to connect with. You know, I don't want to get into any details and stories about myself or what have you, but I will tell you a story that I recently didn't actually, this wasn't my story, it was somebody talking to me, and it was interesting because this person is quite celebrated, shall we say, and I met them through a friend. And it was funny because this person is much more accomplished, at least publicly, than I am. They're more well-known publicly. They have the ear of politicians and celebrities. And it was really interesting because upon meeting them, they started rattling off their accomplishments by telling me stories. And I actually found it kind of obnoxious and not that interesting. But at the same time, let's just say I was someone who could have used some of the skills that he was talking about. For instance, he happens to be, I don't want to give this person away. So let's just say he's in charge of a major public institution that puts celebrities in the public eye. Let's just say that. Okay, and one of the first things this guy said to me was, I'm in charge of the blah, blah. And I was like, I didn't ask you that. I don't know why you're telling me that. Because I'm the kind of person who's like, you know what, just be yourself and just hang out, which is fine. But if you get into the habit of sharing information that might be relevant, because maybe he knew I was an actor, maybe he knew I coach a lot of celebrities, maybe he knew about Hack Hollywood, and maybe he thought, well, if this guy teaches thousands of actors, how to have acting careers, then maybe he can introduce me to some celebrities that I might want to get to know. I don't know what his motivation was, and I found it a little bit obnoxious, but at the same time, it was very shrewd, because at the end of the day, whether I enjoyed it or not, I got the information, and I know something about the guy that, despite whether I like him personally or not, from our first meeting, his body of work, what he's doing, is impressive and might be of use to me at some point. And therefore, he's creating work for himself by sharing information about himself. Now, he could probably work on his delivery, and I would help him with that. But the fact that he's doing it is quite a brilliant strategy, and I highly recommend you guys do things like that, but do it in a more subtle and charming way. Make it funny, make it self-deprecating. Like, if you're going to say that you run the Metropolitan Museum of Modern Art, let's say, if that's what your job is, well, you don't just want to come out and say to people, well, I run the Metropolitan Museum of Art, aren't you impressed? Tell a story that happened and say, we were running a showing of Andy Warhol stuff over at the Museum of Modern Art, and the funniest thing happened. This celebrity who shall not be named was dying to touch one of the works of art, but what they didn't know was that the whole thing is lasered and alarmed, and if you touch it, alarm bells go off and spotlights go on to that spot. And so this celebrity touched one of the paintings and all hell broke loose. The lights went off and were flashing, and there were sirens, and this guy was just frozen in fear, and everyone in the museum turned to look at him. And that would have been a great little story, and I just made that up right now. So even if you don't have great stories, just tell a story that might sound great, because it's all about just interacting and being friendly. But if I was the curator of the Museum of Modern Art and I told that little story, whoever I was talking to might say, oh, well, what's your connection to the Museum of Modern Art? And I might say, oh, I'm the curator. And they might say, oh, wow, that's really cool, if they thought that was impressive. Or, if it was not that interesting, go, oh, nice, whatever. So point being, you need to learn to tell stories about yourself, and you need to learn to talk about yourself to strangers, but in particular strangers who might have a way to contribute to your acting career, or someone who you might be able to contribute to help them, which will help you in your acting career. Okay, guys, I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please like it, thumbs up, write a comment, ask me a question. I'm dying to answer more questions. What else do you guys want to hear about? And subscribe to my channel, because I want to educate as many actors as possible so that more of you work more and fewer of you make career-ending mistakes, because there is a ton of content out there being made. There are so many outlets. There's no reason why you can't get a piece of this, okay? It's just you have to make sure that people know you exist, and of course you have to have the skills to deliver. So work really hard on those skills, and then when you have the opportunity to meet people, you can really confidently share with them the skills that you have so they can make use of them. All right, guys, I will talk to you soon.